She's already fully exploited her peeing her pants. At a certain point, even the people who applaud peeing your pants stories are going to get sick of peeing your pants stories. So we're at the point now where it's like you need to move on. We still want to deal with the region at large, you know, the genital region. So now she's starting to talk about pooping herself or pooping generally, I guess, at concerts. And so that, you know, maybe that didn't go over so great. So now we're going to talk about the hair region. You know, you got to fully exploit that area as much as possible. So I think that's where we're at with this, with number one on the list.
I don't do any more. Number one, shave my bikini line regularly. That is where we are going to jump in, is with my pubic hair. Right. It's a lot to just go there first. But I mean, let's talk about this. When I was married, that was my first ever real relationship of any kind with a man, or I mean, with anybody. That was my first relationship. I made that sound like I had long toured affairs with women, which would be fun. But no, I never experienced that. So
would that be fun for you, Rachel, as a straight, I'm assuming, woman? Okay. I've noticed lately too, and I was going to, I'm glad I remembered to bring it up. I haven't cut the sound bites, and I should, but in the Lisa Bilyeu interview, she had mentioned that her doctor, who is a woman, presumably, Dr. Brush, she's like, I love my doctor so much, I wish I could make out with her. I was like, okay. And then she also mentioned something else about making out with Kimberly, maybe, or one of her other guests. She had made a joke about somebody else who was a woman, was like, I would make out with you if I could. So that's her new thing, to say that she appreciates something, but specifically only talking about women, apparently. So just wanted to put that out there. It seems to be a new theme occurring.
In my marriage, that was my first real relationship, and I sort of was informed on how my body was supposed to be, how my sexuality was supposed to be, how I was supposed to look and act and behave based on, I don't know, like TV, Victoria's Secret ads, the things I saw in Sex and the City, the things I read inside of Cosmos circa, 2003. I definitely was just really misinformed about what was sexy and what was, I don't know, the way that I'm using air quotes if you can't see me, but like the way that a woman is supposed to be. And I think when we don't know what we're supposed to do, we emulate someone else. We emulate the vision that we have. It's why media and representation inside of media is so important, because if you don't see someone like you, or if you don't see someone like the version that you want to be, you run the risk that you'll follow a path that is not aligned with who you are, simply because you don't have an alternative. So for me, I had all of these, late 90s, early 2000s influences of what women were supposed to aspire to and what we needed to do to, quote, please our man, and, know how to give the world's greatest blowjob and know how to wear the sexiest underwear and like be like a porn star while you were having sex, and just all of this stuff. Maybe you have a different upbringing or a different influence than I did. That's definitely not what I was learning from like church or things I was supposed to be influenced by, but I absolutely was. And along those lines was this belief that I had that my pubic hair needed to always be groomed, manicured, be very little. I mean, there was like regular bikini line area life, which was just sort of shaved and high and tight, as it were. And then there was like vacation. I can only think of real terms right now. So I'm like, then there was vacation labia, but I promise you, nobody's calling it that. Then there's what happened to.
Okay, so vacation labia obviously is going to be a soundbite because, come on. But I think it's interesting. She's like the goodest good girl you've ever met.
The best, goodest, good girl you ever met in your life.
Sorry, the best goodest good girl you've ever met in your life. But now all of a sudden she's like, I was forced to perform blowjobs because Cosmo told me to. It's like, I thought you were like this like innocent church bunny rabbit mouse who Dave, you know, met, and you never had ever met anyone else in your life, and that's, you're like very naive. And I mean, I'm not saying that she's still not, she can't be both, but it's sort of like retelling of the story. Like now she's free. Thank you so much. Now she's free. Steven cameo on the side. Now she's, you know, sexually free, and she's talking about making out with women, and she wishes she could, which, okay, if you really wanted to, you could do that, Rachel. It's a free country. But, you know, I don't know. It just seems like it's a new narrative. Like, oh, I was just crazy, and now I'm going to be, or I was forced into this like Victoria's Secret bubble, which she never really claimed to be pressured by before. But now that she's a hippie, now it's like, oh, I used to be like that. I'm just a little confused about her background, because I thought it was like, I just believed the husband was the most important thing, and I was a buttoned up church girl because my daddy's a preacher. And now she's like, nah, I was just all about, you know, shaving my vagina and giving blowjobs. It's like, oh, I didn't know that existed. I'm sorry, I misunderstood something.
The girl when I was going on vacation, which was to get a Brazilian wax. If you're not familiar with that special form of torture, it's like a landing strip, essentially, which I don't even understand. I actually don't understand.
Neither do I.
The bikini wax that just leaves the tiniest little bit of pubic hair. It's like a weird upper lip mustache. Like it makes no sense to me. Like, ooh, this is sexy, but also don't worry, like there's a little bit of pubic, like where, I don't even want to look up the origin of this concept because I'm sure it would depress me. Just F the patriarchy, and it's all so jacked up. But I didn't know.
F the patriarchy. Rachel, it's so funny how she chooses to curse, and I guess I do the same thing sometimes. And there is YouTube rules, like if you're, I think it's like 10 minutes in, you're not supposed to curse because it could get like an adult warning. But if you're 10 minutes into it, like you can curse as much as you want as long as it's within reason. So it's funny how she chooses to, like, you know, she can say this, I do not give a fuck, but then the next podcast is like, I don't, F the patriarchy. It's so funny. And also, you know, yes, the patriarchy, blah, blah, blah. You know, obviously it's real. Obviously it's a thing, but it's like, you are part of the patriarchy in the sense of like using women to profit and make women feel bad about themselves so they buy more of your product. I mean, that's, whether you're female or male or something else, that to me is a patriarchal thing to do, personally. You know, I don't care if it's a man doing it or a woman doing it. If you're, you know, holding women back because you're making them feel bad about themselves, to me, that's, you're a part of the problem.
So whenever I would go on vacation, I definitely would, you know, it's like that scene in 40-Year-Old Virgin, everything's being waxed. I'm screaming, the front, the butt, all of it. And I really hated that process, to be honest with you, because it hurts. But I definitely like when everything's sort of neat and tidy. And when you get a wax, you have a lot more time before it comes back. So there were things about it that I liked. But all of this to say that my experience with the hair on my labia was based on someone else's ideal of sexy. If you get a bikini wax...
Whose idea, though? I thought you just said it was easier for you and that's what you wanted. So who? Dave was like, I require you to have a Brazilian? I don't think so. I doubt it. But whose? Like, society's? I don't know. It's sort of like... You have to take some responsibility and go, I like this style because everyone seemed that's what they told me in high school. And like, I don't know. But she's like, yeah, like I didn't like it. It's like, it sounded like you did like it though. And now you have someone else who's influencing you. So now you're like, okay, now I'm going to like something different. that's not really like making a change because you've decided what's good for you necessarily. That's sort of just like changing yourself via the trends, which is like what she's famous for.
Whether that's a Brazilian or just a little cleanup, or you take it all off and it makes you feel very sexy, freaking here for that. I love that for you. Embrace it, embrace yourself, embrace your heart. I will say, as a side note, when you are waxed, there's more sensation. So that made vacation extra fun. There were pluses to this.
Is that true? Is that accurate? How would she know the difference if she's been doing that since she was married, which was at 21 years old? How would you know that, Rachel? Rach, please cite your sources.
But in the last couple of years, I guess, I really started to question why I feel this need to keep like as little hair on my body as possible. Now, I'm still shaving my legs, still shaving my pits. I'll take that with me to the grave, I'm sure. That one's too ingrained.
So this part was confusing because I was like, wait, okay, so I think it's because no one can judge her but her boyfriend and herself, because this is something she's telling you. So she's taking the power back by explaining like, I don't shave anymore. But she's going to in a second say like, well, I do if I'm at the beach, or I do if I'm out in public. I do if I'm, so 25 caveats. But when I'm home by myself, like, I don't care if it's free. Okay, great. That's pretty much how a lot of people live. Like, if no one's gonna be perceiving them, who cares? Like, all of this doesn't matter. Why would we wear makeup, if you weren't going out in public? I mean, some people like it, but a lot of people probably wouldn't put the time in. I wouldn't ever. I don't a lot of times put makeup on because of the perception. Thanks, James. But okay, your pits and your legs, that's seen more in public. And then, oh no, I'm drawing the line at that. It's like, okay, so you're really making this a private thing, but you're making a public statement about how it makes you so enlightened, more so probably than anyone else.
When it comes to our genitals, this was just, it started to feel more and more weird to me. I think, I'm not going to lie, if I could shave and keep things neat and tidy without any side effects, I would do it, and you and I wouldn't even be having this conversation. But I have tried everything in the world, and I still get pretty bad razor burn, and I get ingrown hairs. I know y'all did not want to hear about my hoo-ha today, but here we are. So every time I try, and
I have nothing else to talk about because I am not qualified to give any advice to anybody, and my career is in the toilet gate. So, here we are. This is what I've come to, and this is what you're subjected to if you choose to listen.
Keep things manicured, I'm dealing with all of these negative side effects that feel worse than just having more hair. So I started thinking about it for a while. And, I've been dating my boyfriend for, a little over a year and a half.
Oh, gosh.
And
so that's sort of, okay, so she got divorced, announced a divorce in June 2020. So now she's saying that it's been a year and a half since they've been dating. So that would mean to me about 6 months, not a year, since she got divorced that she met her boyfriend. Am I doing that math correctly? So before the year anniversary of their divorce, she was already with Kez. That's what it sounds like to me. So she's not far behind Heidi and Dave.
Yes, too, in a new relationship, I had certain ideas about needing to show up again in a specific way, but I am dating the most evolved, like, spiritual, hippie human being. And I just was like, I bet he could not care less about this. And I know, y'all, I could present myself to you in this conversation and say like, F the men, I don't care. I did it for me. I changed for me.
Sometimes but, like, I watch it back and it's like,
I did care what he thought. I wasn't basing all of my decisions on that, but I did care what he thought. And you could be like, you're not a strong enough feminist. That's okay. Like, we all got our stuff. Let this be mine. But I had started to think like, this is crazy. Why am I doing this? This is like gross. And
the one thing I wanted to point out in that little soliloquy she just did, so her boyfriend is the most evolved man ever, which, okay, give me a break. But he's a big hippie. Okay, so it's just a random coincidence, and now Rachel's also the biggest hippie and way more woo-woo than you are.
Am I the only hippie?
Hi, okay. I don't know what happened with the stream. I'm so sorry. Thank you, everyone, for figuring it out. Hopefully we'll all condense and combine together. It's my fault. It's my internet's fault. It's my team. That is the internet. It's their fault. But yeah, like I just, she's trying to make it seem like I'm my own person. I have nothing. I hate Dave. Dave sucks. I'm just this woman who's independent. Okay, but now she gets with a new boyfriend and he's a hippie. Oh, now all of a sudden I'm a hippie. My whole entire personality changes. It's like, come on. We can read between the lines here, Rachel.
Buying into some mythology about women's bodies, and it's not something I need to participate in. But I did say, I was just like, hey, out of curiosity, is this a thing? And he was like, what? No. Oh my God. Like, what are you? Do whatever. Like, be free. Go do you. You're beautiful. Which I knew he was going to say anyway, but it's just nice, I guess, to have your partner's buy-in if you're going to go like back to 1972 down in the undercarriage. So yeah, let's just paint like a full picture. I basically let her.
Isn't that the whole point? Like, you don't need man's approval. You can just, because if you needed a man's approval, then you would have to get it waxed if he wanted you to get it waxed. But because, you don't need a man's approval because you're your own person. Like, isn't that the whole point of this? Like, if you're just asked, like, what do you prefer? You're just doing what he prefers. Isn't that the same thing you did before? I'm assuming that's what she's saying. So what's different? All you've changed is partners. You haven't changed your independence and your authority of your own body. Personally, it sounds like to me.
Go into the point where like things start to grow down into places that it would feel weird. Like, oh, you have a wig in your panties. Like, things are coming out of the underwear. I keep that in check, and I do trim it because, wow, this is a lot more information than I ever thought I was going to talk to you guys about. When I am running long distance, I wear like tight running shorts. And frankly, if there's too much bush, I'm just going to be honest, it like starts to feel uncomfortable for me. So I keep her trim with some scissors. I keep the outgrowth in check. And then I go a little bit neater and tidier when I'm going to be in a bathing suit, like when I go on vacation at the end of this month and we're going to be by a pool. I'll get her in check, but that's for public safety. That's not for sexual enjoyment. But that was a big one.
But didn't you say that it's more sensation when you're waxed? So wouldn't sexual enjoyment be getting it waxed? Like, I'm so confused. I mean, I think she just wants the shock factor at this point. Like, I go there, guys. Like when she talked to Oprah on Oprah's stage and she told the tampon story. And basically the tampon story is that one time she had a tampon lodged in her vagina for 3 weeks and she had sex with her husband, Dave, and he didn't tell her. And he felt something but didn't tell her about it. And then she realized that, she realized after 3 weeks that like, oh my God, this tampon has been here. And apparently Oprah got up and walked away because she was disgusted by this story. And then at the end of the whole story, which was nothing, which was the point of the story was sometimes there's things that you've forgotten about that you need to like pay attention to, which is you could have told that analogy in 70,000 different ways that are not that. And Oprah said, why do you think you're so successful? Why do you have so many book sales, do you think? And she's like, because I tell stories like the tampon story, because I'm relatable. I'm an alcoholic. I'm a former alcoholic, I think she said, if I'm not mistaken. I'm real. I'm just like everybody else, So that was her whole shtick. So I think at this point, she's trying to set it up that like if she ever does a podcast interview again, which I'm sure she will with other podcasts, she can be like, I'm so crazy. I talked about my bush for 15 minutes last week. It's not about the actual content. It's about saying that you are this type of person. So no one is getting anything from this, like what she's saying at all. It's a personal anecdote about her own personal grooming that no one cares about. But she's able now to go and say, I just talk about the wackiest stuff and I'm authentic. I go there. Other women won't go there. I go there. And I think that's the difference, that it's like, oh, okay, so she's still better than us in all aspects.
For me, and maybe it seems silly, but it was a big deal for me to be like, I can embrace just sort of what my body is doing naturally, and not in a way that's like, oh, I don't care, right? Like, oh, I'm just letting it all go. But no, could I actually embrace that this is the way my body is supposed to look and function and be, and still think it's really sexy and beautiful and sexual and all the things. So yeah, that's my first thing I don't do anymore. I don't shave my chochi. Yeah, probably should stop calling it chochi.
Why? I can't call it a chochi. Yeah. So learn nothing that I needed to learn. This is actually, I'm trying to eat lunch, but it's sort of a hard story to eat lunch around. Not that it's gross. I don't know. It's like TMI, just TMI. Don't eat any of this. And also the point is that she's still doing what her boyfriend or the man in her life wants her to do. So it's not really that inspiring to moi personally, but you know.